Okay,
So go into it.
So this segment, I couldn't take it seriously in the theater, so I'm calling this Tasteful Nudity. One day, like I said, I really want to be able to make stingers and stuff for this.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna bring this up. So there's a scene in the movie, and like there are scenes in other movies, and I'll ask to bring up a couple examples here in a second. But
Okay.
there are scenes in movies, and they're really, really stupid most of the time. But like they at least make some kind of sense narratively, right?
Yes.
The classic is the male lead will get some kind of injury, and he'll have to take off his shirt so that the female romantic interest can dab it up with her, and then it eventually leads into them kissing and whatever.
Right.
But it's an opportunity to remove an article of clothing, typically the shirt for the guy.
Yeah.
So this one,
it's a contrivance, but it's like a movie thing.
Right, yeah. You just kind of accept it because you're like, sex sells, so we're looking at some attractive person that's put a lot of time in their body, whatever. So this one had one of the most egregious, ridiculous scenes I've ever seen in that vein. This guy, he goes out and he kills a bunch of people that are apparently like drug lords or something.
Yeah, he kills a mob boss who is in prison and running things
so he
from
breaks
the prison.
into the prison and then breaks out.
Pretending to be an inmate.
Right.
Kills the guy and a bunch of other people and then breaks out.
He gets onto a helicopter, whatever it is. That
it's like some giant.
So someone's sitting out there in the snow waiting for him. He jumps on. It closes up. He just walks in the back, rips off his shirt, and stands there and flexes in front of the camera. It's so bad. He's just like, he gets back there and he's like, and I'm like, and it's like, yeah, I got it, man. You got abs, but why did you take off your shirt? Because he doesn't
It's freezing cold.
It's frozen.
It's snowing. It's Russia. It's cold.
So cold. And he's like, there's no bandages he needs to put on. He's not injured.
Nope.
He's not going to jump into bed. He just gets back there and stands there.
He doesn't even talk to the pilot. He says like one word to them or something.
Like, don't eat this anymore. Like, it's so stupid. So that was the most egregious. But I wanted to see if you have any further examples of tasteful nudity that you think maybe not are as egregious, but egregious.
That are egregious, like as in like bad.
As in like this has no justification, but they threw it in anyway. I have two.
Okay, well, so the issue doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you.
Sure.
I think because I guess like I have more qualms about it on like executing it on a personal level. So if I was directing this movie or writing it or acting in it or something like that, I would have more stipulations on my mind about it because, I want my actors to feel comfortable. Like, I don't want anyone feeling like they have to do something that they don't want to do. And, it's like, we're not making a porno here. Like, and I get it. It's like, I get
how much you exploit someone for getting butts in seats. Yeah, I get it.
But I mean, I would also feel the same way if I was directing an actor and it was a really emotionally charged scene and it was really long and it was really difficult. I would feel the same way. I'd be like, look, it's like you're putting yourself through a lot here. I get you're an artist. I'm an artist too, though. So I have more my sensibilities for it are higher. But like,
okay, so I'm gonna go through two that I thought were...
Why don't you go through yours? Because like again, it doesn't bother me as much. So I don't like factor it in and keep track as oh, that was a terrible one.
Well, then I have I think three that made more sense. So there's two, one of which is Thor, Love and Thunder. So there's a scene where Thor gets captured by Zeus or whatever, and Zeus like blows his clothes off.
Yeah,
and it's just like, why? This is just for whomever in the audience appreciates Chris Hemsworth being naked. The other one, which is far more egregious because it was just so stupid, was Star Trek.
Oh, yes.
So
that's
in the
the one
first Star Trek done by J.J. Abrams, there's a blonde character. No, I'm sorry. It's the second one. It's Into Darkness.
Oh, is it the second one?
Yeah, it's because when they're going to open up their torpedoes. So
it's something like that, and they're like, we have to change.
And they get in this little escape pod with just her and Kirk, and she's like, I have to change, turn around. It's like, why didn't you change before you got here?
Yeah.
Why didn't you change when he's like flying or something, when he's preoccupied?
Yeah.
So he has to go stand in a corner while you get done, and then he, of course, turns around, and she just straight poses. Like, it's not even like a, hey, don't look. It's like she's standing there, turn around. Like,
yeah.
put your abs away. Like you're in a bra. I got it. Just hurry up.
Yeah.
It was so exploitative because it's strictly there for the sex appeal.
Yeah.
The 3 that I can think of that were good examples, depending on where you stand with all this stuff. Like I understand that there's some moral issues and whatever. So there was the Invasion of the Body Snatchers was one.
That's one of my favorite ones.
Right.
In part because
I like that you say favorite. That's
well, like it's one of the best examples, even though it's arguably much more exploitative because you see like her whole, like she's just totally naked. She's stark naked in it. But the thing is this is after her character, I mean, spoilers for Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but this is after her
50
character
years later
dies and gets reborn from the pod thing.
Yeah.
And so it's her pod version of herself.
So she's no longer human.
Right, exactly.
She
is
does not
an
have
alien
human
thing.
tendencies.
Right, and that's the whole point about it, because the director has said, like, look, we don't have to shoot you naked. We could do it a different way. And she's like, no, it'll be better this way.
And it's a lot more shocking to an audience. They're like seeing that it's going to associate. Like I understand that there's like appealing to the human figure or whatever. But the thing is that it's shocking because that's not a character that would have done that initially. So now it's someone who's revealing themselves because these aliens don't understand human culture, and so it's a way of purveying that. So artistically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Despite moral qualms with it.
Right, because there's a shot where she is walking through like a line of people, and they're all like working and doing stuff, and they're all dressed or whatever, but they're all the aliens.
Yeah.
They're the pod people. And so she walks through and then points like, oh, that's who we got to get next. And then they all flock to that.
Right.
So it's just this creepy, unnerving scene, and it's at the very end. So you're just like, ugh, because it's like, it's absolute confirmation that what's happening is horrible, because the whole thing of Body Snatchers is that they claim afterwards, this is better. It's better this way.
Right.
You should do it too. And they keep saying that narrative over and over, and they're gaslighting
But what
you.
you're seeing is telling you something
Right.
different. Right.
And when you see that contrast, you're like, she's totally lost all of her humanity and all of her dignity.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want to be a part of this. This is freaky, right? And so that's a really potent example.
Yeah.
The other one actually that I'm thinking of now that I think is handled fairly well is in Schindler's List, and that one is.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's a shot where, I mean, it's really horrible, but they're like basically they take because it's it's Nazi Germany is the premise of the film. So they have the Jews go and like they shower them or something like that, and then they're walking out and they're passing out like clothes for them to wear, and they have to just take it and like go to wherever they're supposed to go or something like that. But it's just this like really horrible like inhumanity type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's showing like the historical context of what's going on. So that was another example where I was like, okay, yes, this makes sense. And like, again, I think it's fair to take either side to say like it's exploitative because it's still a film and these are real people. I think it's fair to say like it's for artistic purposes or historical purposes, and so it's valid.
At the end of the day, it does get the point across because that is something that actually happened, and they're trying to depict that as accurately as possible.
Right.
So again, whatever moral qualms come about with that, like
there's a justification is what we're pointing out, and that justification matters. This one didn't have that.
It did not. He got on and was just flexing as hard as he could in order for the camera to be like, look at this man. Look at that. The last one that I'll bring up before we move on.
Okay.
Because outside of the
This is a fun segment.
It is a fun segment. And we've mentioned this before on the show. And I guess I'll say the other one since we've mentioned this one, but it was Sixth Sense. Because the guy in the beginning, he strips down to his underwear, and it was just to show you that this guy had issues. It was a mental thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like
a burglar or something like that.
It wasn't someone just getting in and getting out. It was like, we are in danger. And it portrayed that expertly.
Yeah.
Like you feel the tension when you see him.
Yeah.
You're like, something's very wrong. This is bad.
That's another example where the actor, it was his suggestion even. Because they weren't, that wasn't even planned for it to be that way. And he said, I think I should do it naked. And he's not totally naked. He's in some underwear. But like he's mostly naked. And like, again, I think it added
just to
so
get
much.
That message across.
Right. He did a lot of work to like get into the mode of his character.
Yeah. Because
he knew how much pressure was it. He's like, this is the opening scene. I could literally sabotage this whole movie if what I do here is not convincing, because it's going to set the tone for everything else.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that was another instance where I think there was a very good, compelling reason to shoot it in the way that they did. So, yeah.
The last one that I'll mention, and this is as far as I got, so I'll leave the rest up to you. But it was a movie called Blonde, and it's about Marilyn Monroe. In the beginning scene, they're showing how mentally disturbed her mother was.
Yeah.
So they're in like an apartment building. There's a bunch of yelling and such, and then she kicks Marilyn out.
And this really awful, like nasty.
It's really, really gnarly. So she kicks little Norma Jean out to go to stay with her neighbors, and the neighbors turn and look, and the mom's standing in the doorway, stark naked, and just staring at her kind of blankly, and then shuts the door. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
It's really creepy, but it kind of gives you an eye into what Norma Jean lived through when she was a kid. Like I said, I didn't watch the rest of the movie. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But it was. Again, it was one of those very effective methods of explaining without having to say anything what the situation was that led to the series of events that the film then portrays later on.
Yeah.
But it was a storytelling method. So again, whether or not you find it exploitative, like whether or not you have moral issues with it, they are they're storytelling methods that are used effectively.
Yeah.
Again, which Kraven does not use at all.
Well, it's not for story purposes.
It's not. It's strictly like, we are not confident in our movie, so we're going to try and get butts in seats by showing off this man's body. And it was just, I don't know, it feels gross.
Because the motivation is the same for like, any kind of
for pornography.
Pornographic material. Same idea, because it's just there for, the appeal of the human body, which we're all susceptible to because you're humans. So
there's nothing wrong with being attracted to the human body. It's just the way they portray it.
This was just a funny one because it was so obvious.
Blatant.
Like even I caught it. Usually I'm like, oh, whatever. Or like the Thor one was like clearly a joke that they set up so that they could do some Marvel humor. This was just out of frick nowhere. You watch the scene and then he goes in there and I'm like, why is he taking his shirt off? It's freezing cold.
I need it off, okay? And it was, and then the camera's all like zooming in, and he's like, dude. It
was just weird.
Unbelievably stupid.
It's kind of like the George Clooney Batman.
Oh, with the bat nipples?
The bat nipples.
When
it was kind of like that. Yeah, and it's like, what are we doing?
Why did we need this?
Okay.
Do you expect him not to have nipples? He's a monster? He's human, okay? He's got nipples.
It's like, sure.
All right, so we'll move on.